skydiving. Hope comes and stops us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Morning. Yeah, lol. Yeah, lol. Yeah. I got enough sleep. I don't know why I'm tired and cranky. I think I just wore out on some stuff. Yeah, that's it. Tired and cranky. Good morning, Becky. It's good to see you. Oh, yeah, I couldn't figure out what to read or what to pick. That happens. We do random readings. Just so. Problem is, you don't know what you're going to end up with, and it might be repetitive and stuff. So, if it is, you got to kind of change it a little bit. Stuff. But, yeah. I just got a lot of things I got to get done today, and I don't think I want to do any of them as part of it. So, nothing big. What do they say? The little things kill, man. I got a lot of little things I got to get done. They were little, so I'd let them slide a little bit. Let them slide. Little Goo Goo Dolls there. You Goo Goo Dolls fan? They're a good band, man. Good straightforward rock and roll band. I always enjoy a good rock and roll band. I grew up on rock and roll. Rock and roll! Oh, man, how much screwing around can I do? All right. Give me a random number between 1 and 164.
34.
So we're going to be on page 34. 34, which is in probably there's a solution. It'll be probably right in the middle of the story, too. Oh, but that always makes it tough. That always makes it tough. All right. Let's do some introductions here. My name is Dion. Welcome to Daily Trudge. Oh, it's in more about alcoholism. Welcome to Daily Trudge. I'm Dion. Yo, I'm your host. Been doing this 7 years and 4 days now. If everybody else gets a day count, I'm on a day count too. Just a joke. Just a joke. If you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching the live or the rewatch. Maybe I'm not as cranky as I thought I was. I think I'm just probably tired. Just probably tired. Now, there's some crankiness in there. There is some. Oh. All right. Let's get started. As we look back, we feel we had gone on drinking many years to the beyond the point where we could quit on our own willpower. If anyone questions whether he has entered this dangerous area, let him try leaving liquor alone for 1 year. Wow, 1 year. So when I was 18 and living on Skid Row, I did not need alcohol. It would have been easy to quit. It was easy to quit. Easier. Still kind of wanted it, but it wasn't so ingrained into my soul yet. But at 45, if I did not wake up in the morning and drink alcohol, it would have killed me. That's the difference. And it is a big difference. And the second part is not a requirement. You do not need to get so bad. What it is, you know, your body gets to a point where it has so much alcohol in it that if it doesn't get more alcohol, then the delirium tremens will kill you. We call this alcohol poisoning. Right? If he is a real alcoholic and very far advanced, there is scant chance of success. In the early days of our drinking, we occasionally remained sober for a year or more, becoming serious drinkers again later. Though you may be able to stop for a considerable period, you may yet be a potential alcoholic. We think few to whom this book will appeal can stay dry anything like a year. Some will be drunk the day after making their resolutions, most of them within a few weeks. I wouldn't have been able to go very long, especially the second time. If I made a promise to quit drinking, the amount of time that it took for me to start drinking would be whatever the amount of time was it took me to get to the liquor store and pour some alcohol down my gullet. Right? Now, here again, we do not need to deal with absolutes like rock bottom. I know people still kind of use it kind of as a reference, and to them, their bottom may have felt like a rock bottom, and feelings are valid. Absolutely, they are valid. For me, rock bottom does not exist. It is an excuse to continue drinking. Okay? And rock bottom does not exist. It's just one trapdoor after another to alcoholic death. If you're not familiar with an alcoholic death, they look like this. The asphyxiation of vomit is the number one way alcoholics die from alcohol poisoning. DTs, dementia. Some people will get dementia in their 50s and 60s from drinking alcohol, and alcohol dementia is a horrible, horrible thing, because what you will do is you will be somebody who shouldn't quite be in an assisted living, who consistently breaks out to try and get to the liquor store every day, all day. It is what they will try and do. So, for those who are unable to drink moderately, the question is how to stop altogether. Now, the big difference, well, the difference between us is once I start to drink, I cannot stop. And that didn't matter whether I was 18 or 45. That didn't matter. The age didn't, and that didn't matter. That once I intentionally started drinking, I couldn't stop. I became insatiable. And then alcohol became the number one priority. And that did happen to me when I was younger. So therefore, that would be alcoholism, right? I don't understand that, what the not is. and and if I don't reply to your chat and stuff, it's only because I'm not awake. I'm doing the best that I can. Maybe I'll wake up a little bit more in a little bit, but we're assuming, of course, that the reader desires to stop. Whether such person can quit upon a non-spiritual basis depends upon the extent to which he has already lost the power to choose whether he will drink or not. Many of us felt we had plenty of character. There was a tremendous urge to cease forever, yet we found it impossible. This is the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it, the utter ability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or wish. Right? So, Are people with drinking problems, are they alcoholic? I don't know. I really don't. I don't know where the line gets divided there, and it's not really for me to determine. You know, we deal with Alcoholics Anonymous deals with a lot of different types of sobriety, including people that are sober curious, people that really are, they're not really normal drinkers, but they haven't got to the point of alcoholism. A lot of people like that. And yeah, we in AA will we let those people come into the rooms and do the steps, things like that. My first wife, I met her in AA. She's not an alcoholic. She got a DUI, was forced into AA, which personally I think the courts need to stop using AA as their dumping ground. I mean, judges send all sorts of people to AA that don't belong in AA, like people with sexual problems, sexual predators and shit. Yeah, and they shouldn't do that. Um, anyway, I'm like way off topic here. Um, Many of us felt that we had plenty of character. There's a tremendous urge to cease forever, yet we found it impossible. I already read this part. See, I told you I'm not awake. I've just read this book so much that repeating it is not repeating it. I repeat it so much that I don't know if I've already read something, if that makes any sense. Um, how then shall we help our readers determine to their own satisfaction whether they are one of us? The experience of quitting for a period of time will be helpful, but we think we can render an even greater service to alcoholic sufferers and perhaps the medical fraternity. So we shall describe some of the mental state that precedes a relapse into drinking, for obviously this is the crux of the problem. What sort of thinking dominates an alcoholic who repeats time after time the desperate experiment of the first drink? Friends who have reasoned with him after a spree which has brought him to the point of divorce or bankruptcy are mystified when he walks directly into a saloon. Why does he? Of what is he thinking? Our first example is a friend we shall call Jim. Good old Jim. Jim and his carpet slippers. This man has a charming wife and family. He inherited a lucrative different story. Automobile agency. He had a commendable World War record. He's a good salesman. Everybody likes him. He's an intelligent man, normal so far as we can see, except he has a nervous disposition. He did no drinking until he was 35. In a few years, he became so violent when intoxicated that he had to be committed. On leaving the asylum, he came into contact with us. Now, I always like to dig a little bit deeper. I can tell you now that Jim had parents that drank. I can tell because he didn't drink until he was 35. He stayed away from the hooch because he saw what it did to his parents or one of his parents or somebody close in his life. It's just the way it goes, man. Okay. Now, I'm assuming, but I'm most likely right. if you've ever done, if you've done the podcast with me, I can guess usually who's, well, my parent, you'll hear that, I grew up and my parents didn't drink. They didn't want alcohol in the house. So the question is, okay, which grandparent was the alcoholic that made that person decide who is probably that parent is probably what you would call the golden child. And they were probably the oldest. Anyway, let's get back to Jim. He's 35 in a few years, right? We told him what we knew of alcoholism and the answer we had found. He made a beginning. His family was reassembled, and he began to work as a salesman for the business he had lost through drinking. All went well for a time, but he failed to enlarge his spiritual life. To his consternation, he found himself drunk half a dozen times in rapid succession. On each of these occasions, we worked with him, reviewing carefully what had happened. He agreed he was a real alcoholic and in serious condition. He knew he faced another trip to the asylum if he kept on. Moreover, he would lose his family for whom he had a deep affection. Yet, he got drunk again. We asked him to tell us exactly how it happened. This is his story. I came to work on Tuesday. I remember I felt irritated that I had to be a salesman for a concern I once owned. What does that say? It says he hasn't done his fourth step yet. There's a resentment. He started his day with a resentment. I had a few words with the boss, but nothing serious. That means that they argued. Then I decided to drive to the country and see one of my prospects for a car. On the way, I felt hungry, so I stopped at a roadside place where they have a bar. I had no intention of drinking. I just thought I'd get a sandwich. I also had the notion that I might find a customer for a car at this place, which was familiar, for I've been going to it for years. Then he tells himself a lie so he can go to this particular place that he'd been going to for years, okay, where he's going to find his comfort. I had eaten there many times during the months I was sober. Doesn't matter. I had eaten there many times during the months I was sober. I sat down at the table and ordered a sandwich and a glass of milk. Still no thought of drinking. I ordered another sandwich and decided to have another glass of milk. There were a lot of sandwiches and milk back in the 30s for some reason. I mean, a lot of sandwiches. Suddenly, the thought crossed my mind that if I were to put an ounce of whiskey in my milk, it couldn't hurt me on a full stomach. I ordered a whiskey and poured it into the milk. I vaguely sensed I was not being any too smart, but felt reassured that I was taking whiskey on a full stomach. The experiment went so well, I ordered another whiskey and poured it into the milk. That didn't seem to bother me, so I tried another. Here's part of the thing is, we alcoholics are born, number one, with a high tolerance to alcohol as it is. But we can also pound them, man. Yeah. You know, I call a six-pack a good start. That's what I called it, because six got me to buzzing, depending on how fast I drank it. Okay. And I didn't eat. Are you hungry? Well, let me finish this beer and I'll tell you. Now, pork chop in every beer. All right. Thus started one more journey to the asylum for Jim. Here was the threat of commitment, the loss of family and position, say nothing of that intense mental and physical suffering which drinking always caused him. He had much knowledge about himself as an alcoholic, yet all reasons for drinking were easily pushed aside in favor for the foolish idea that he could take whiskey if he only mixed it with milk. Okay. We forget. I easily forget where I came from. I can be in jail last weekend and forget it the next weekend. Yeah, it has happened. Whatever the precise definition of the word may be, we call this plain insanity. How can such a lack of proportion of the ability to think straight be called anything else? I think I have a cat caught in a closet. Let me go check on him. Oh. Nope. Nope, I was wrong. They were just making noise. All right. And my cat will sneak into my closet when I go to get it. It's cold. It's cold down here, Eddie. It's cold. You may think this is an extreme case. Not even close. Close to extreme. To us, it is not far-fetched, for this kind of thinking has been characteristic of every single one of us. We have sometimes reflected more than Jim did upon the consequences, but there was that always curious mental phenomenon, the parallel phenomenon that parallel with our sound reasoning, there inevitably ran some insanely trivial excuse for taking the first drink. Our sound reasoning failed to hold us in check. The insane idea won out. Next day, we would ask ourselves in all earnestness and sincerity how it could have happened. That's the frustrating part, isn't it? When you sober back up and you're like, how in the fuck did that happen? I don't even remember doing it. It's fucking scary. There there are a lot of parts of my life that I just don't fucking remember because I was too drunk. I mean, months of my life gone. And I don't know if I just killed off so many brain cells that I don't remember, or if I was too drunk to remember. Yeah. And it's scary. It doesn't always have to be though. So in some circumstances, we got out deliberately. We have gone out deliberately to get drunk, feeling ourselves justified by nervousness, anger, worry, depression, jealousy, or the like. But even in this type of beginning, we're obliged to admit that our justification for a spree was insanely insufficient in the light of what always happens. Something always happens, especially at the end. Now, I didn't get in trouble every time I was drinking, but every time I got in trouble, I had been drinking. Every time. We see now that when we began to drink deliberately instead of casually, there was little serious or effective thought during the period of premeditation of what the terrific consequences might be. This is what we call the fuck-its, and it's a very dangerous area for an alcoholic to be. It's it's hard for me to think of me now, looking at myself now to think that I used to be the kind of person where I didn't give a fuck that I got in a car and whether you lived through the experience or not. Because I didn't think of other people. I didn't think of the consequences. I was fine with the consequences for myself or whatever, but I'm out there supplying consequences for other people when I do that shit, and that is not fair. I have no right to do that. And to think I was that person still upsets me a little bit. I know I'm not that person anymore, but I know I'm perfectly capable of being that person again if I don't do what it is that I need to do. And that scares me a lot. I don't want to go to hell. I already lived it. I want to go. Our behavior is absurd and incomprehensible with respect of the first drink of that an individual with a passion, say for jaywalking, he gets a thrill out of skipping in front of fast moving vehicles. He enjoys himself for a few years in spite of friendly warnings. Up to this point, you would label him as a foolish chap having queer ideas of fun. Luck then deserts him, and he is slightly injured several times in succession. You would expect him, if he were normal, to cut it out. Presently, he is hit again, and this time has a fractured skull. Within a week after leaving the hospital, a fast moving trolley car breaks his arm. He tells you he has decided to stop jaywalking for good, but in a few weeks he breaks both his legs. On through the years, his conduct continues, accompanied by his continual promises to be careful or to keep off the streets altogether. Finally, he can no longer work. His wife gets a divorce and he is held up to ridicule. He tries every known means to get the jaywalking idea out of his head. He shuts himself in an asylum, hoping to mend his ways, but the day comes when he races out from a fire engine, which breaks his back. Such a man would be crazy, wouldn't he? I don't know. Sounds a lot like Dion when he's drinking. Sounds like Dion when he's in his cups, doing crazy things, doing weird things with queer ideas of fun, right? You may think our illustration is too ridiculous, but is it? We who have been through the ringer have to admit if we substituted alcoholism for jaywalking, the illustration would fit us exactly. However intelligent we may have been in other respects where alcohol has been involved, we have been strangely insane. It's strong language, but isn't it true? We're gonna do a couple more. We're gonna do a couple more paragraphs here. We'll do it before Fred. Well, no, we may tell Fred's story. We may tell Fred's story. No, that was not. It's not the story I think it is. Some of you are thinking, yes, what you tell is true, but it doesn't fully apply. Well, fully apply. Well, gosh, even a part of it fucking applies. Even a part of it is going to kind of tell me something, I would think. We admit we have some of these symptoms. Well, we have not gone to the extreme you fellows did, nor are we likely to. For we understand ourselves so well after what you have told us that such things cannot happen. We have not lost everything in life through drinking, and we certainly do not intend to. Thanks for the information. Knowledge it won't. I'm a perfect example to let you know that knowledge isn't going to do it. Okay. My first AA meeting, I was 14. I was in AA by 16. I was living on the streets by 17. And then I was back in the Phoenix concept and I was in there for a year at 18. I won the prevention award twice by the governor. I was a drug and alcohol counselor at the age of 20. I have worked everything in this fucking field. Treatment centers. Yes, I've worked treatment. I've worked detox. I've been a counselor. I've done family counseling through Arapahoe House. I've been in therapy since I was 13 years old. But when the drink came along, there was no fucking decision. There was no self-knowledge. It didn't save me from shit. No. And I was a big book thumper then, too. Okay. I'm going to tell you, there's a different hell out there that you are not required to take. You are not required to take it. Right? Because what happens is there's parts in this big book that will become a fucking challenge in your head. You won't even know it, but they become challenges. There's a part in I think it's in the 12 by 12, it says they were spared the last 10, 15 years of literal hell the rest of us had to go through. And I went out for 15 years. I did not do that consciously, but I put myself through the fucking ringer and I found out exactly how bad of an alcoholic I was. Okay. This is not a requirement. And it's part of why I do what I do. So the people that are younger than me, or even people my age, understand that you don't have to go through that in order to get to a place where you can settle your life and become a better person. In fact, please don't, because you may not make it. You may not make it. I got lucky. I don't know if luck is it. I got the full grace of God, man. Okay. That may be true of certain non-alcoholic people who, though drinking foolishly and heavily at the present time, are able to stop or moderate because their brains and bodies have not been damaged like as ours were. But the actual or potential alcoholic, with hardly an exception, will be absolutely unable to stop drinking on the basis of self-knowledge. No, doesn't work. Okay. I actually sat in bars and got other people sober. I never stopped helping people. I was still I wasn't a two-stepper or a one-stepper. But that was just part of the game. Well, how do you know so much? Well, I worked in it. Just part of the game. Part of my denial. Right. but the actual potential alcohol with hardly, this is a point we wish to emphasize and re-emphasize to smash home upon our alcoholic readers as it has been revealed to us out of bitter experience. All right. That's what we're gonna read out of today. Yeah, I bring something up for I would say for about a year now. I've been trying to find a home group, and it seems like when I find it, some things just I don't know. I'm not saying I don't feel like I belong in AA. I do. It's just I wish I'd find my set of people that I go to on a daily basis, and you know my mind tends well it's like, well, then do it, but what I don't want to do is create another group and create more competition or things like that. I mean, I do, I mean, if that's what needs to be done, but I don't want to run everything and do everything. I you know um I don't know, it's kind of tough, and it's been a conundrum lately, and I got a feeling I'm not the only one. Um so I just thought I'd bring it up. I don't know that I really have a solution to it other than, I could certainly go on everything AA and continue going to meetings until I found one, but I'd really like to find a home group that's in my community where it's people that kind of, live in my area so that we can do other things. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Just something I've been thinking about. So. If anybody has any suggestions on that, you know, if it wasn't for the chicanery in one meeting, I might actually start going back there. But there's also a part because I got into it with some of them. They said, "You'll be back," and I told them, "No, I won't." And my stubbornness will not let me go back. But there's no part of my gut that says that I should go back. My intuition. I'm no longer upset or really angry about it, or because it is what it is. So, but maybe it is what it is. Um, I don't know. When I was in AA before, I used to go to a group called Bill's Brown Bagger. It's still around today. It's just so hard for me to stay consistent on in-person meetings. Um, and maybe that's what I need to work towards. But if I do that, then what about my online friends that I have all over the country? I don't want to miss them either. I'm feeling very selfish about my meetings. It's probably a good way to put it. Feelings aren't quite facts, but in this case, it's probably about as factual as you can get. Um, I won't make the mistake of walking away from AA again. Last time I did that, it almost fucking killed me. Um, and it has ruined a lot of different things that I'm not willing to let go of. Family, friends, things like that. So, yeah. Oh, you know, I just kind of think back sometimes because before you go to a meeting and if you didn't get there 10 minutes early, you didn't get a seat. There was never downtime. There wasn't silence in meetings. And silence in meetings is one thing I can't stand. But, even my home group that I'm going to, which is the Vitality Noon right now, you know, you have to force people to speak, or then it becomes a tag meeting. And, you know, I don't go to meetings to listen to silence. I just don't. I'm there for the camaraderie, I'm there for the fellowship, I'm there for the newcomer. And to share my experience, strength, and hope if I have a chance. So I don't know. There's something in my gut. There's just something off, and and it may not. And I've kind of switched topics. There's something off in the world, and it feels weird today. All right. Um, you know, I'd be I'd be more than happy to start a noon grassroots meeting if I knew that all my friends were gonna if I knew that, at least 6, 7 people were gonna show up each day. I'd be willing to do that. But I don't want to go to other noon meetings and say, hey, this one kind of sucks, don't you think? You should join mine. Because what does that sound like? Well, it sounds like competition. It sounds like promotion rather than attraction. Um, but I also know that it kind of needs to be done. So I'm having a hard time figuring out what direction I want to go with some things. I'm being presented with a few different things in the industry. Um, and I think what I'm going to do with that is just continue to rely on God to give me direction. I've met a lot of neat people in the last couple of weeks that work in the recovery industry that they're trailblazers, man. So I'm doing a lot of searching for the people doing the right things so that I can start to support them with what's coming up. So, and I enjoy doing that. But I always have a hard time because I'm not sure where I fit in everything, right? So, um, I mean, people are even offering to pay me for some things, and which I should be paid for. But all right, I just thought I'd kind of get that off my chest. You know, as I want to go to a 10 o'clock meeting. 10 o'clock meeting I go to is going to be run by the same people that's been running it for years, and then they're going to have to call on people because and I get kind of frustrated with that. So maybe I need to find a little more patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love today and apply that. Right? Yeah. So, all right. Thank you everybody for being here. It's always good to see you. Becky, it was good to see you. Amber, as always. Um, so I hope everybody has a great day, including myself. I love you. Peace out. And